All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Works on the Web. I am Joyce Vaughn, Marketing and Events Manager for Mgm Works, and I am here with Matthew, who is our first place winner on our Space Case Study Prize Challenge. Matthew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Well, thank you for having some time with us. I'm super excited because this challenge actually came to MGM Works and we had like 40 days from start to finish to get it done. You probably felt a little bit at crunch when you saw the challenge itself, but it was a quick turnaround, but we got really, really good results. And also too, the team who actually did the evaluation of the research, they were astounded, floored, and excited about the case study that you submitted that won first place. And I think did you submit two case studies?
3 case studies.
Actually. 3 case studies. Yes, it's the risk of orbital debris for spacecraft operations. That's the one that was like the awesome prize child of all of us that you sent in. So let's get started. Tell us about yourself, Matthew. You have listed that you're a research graduate assistant at MIT, which means like you're awesome and super smart. So tell us what that means. What's your day-to-day, how your education is related to space. Just give us a little background on yourself.
So I'm a PhD candidate at MIT in the Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics. So I work as a research assistant in the Engineering Systems Lab. So basically, that's a lab group that I work in where we, at least I do space-related research. So my major focus within aeronautics and astronautics is space systems engineering. And specifically, my PhD thesis research is on in-space manufacturing. So I'm looking at actually launching manufacturing equipment into orbit and then actually manufacturing spacecraft components in space or even components to return back to Earth. And so it's, my research is obviously directly related to space applications. And yeah, as a PhD student and a research assistant, basically the day-to-day is obviously working on your various research projects. And academia is a pretty cool environment where you get the opportunity to work on a lot of different research projects. So I have that thesis research, but I've also been able to work on some lunar lander design concepts, also some space station design concepts. I'm also working on some satellite imagery, so using machine learning to process satellite imagery. And so it really gives you an opportunity to work on a lot of different projects. And also having, for my own research, some of that work is basically modeling and simulation on a computer and writing code for that. And then also for my manufacturing research, I have the opportunity to do a lot of hands-on research as well in terms of actually manufacturing representative components and testing them out and all that. So get a good mix and then get the opportunity to write papers and present at conferences. So I've enjoyed the opportunity of being in grad school and excited to graduate soon as well and take that into industry.
So what are your plans for the future? Like you said, to graduate and move forward. Do you have any prospects? And can I ask this? Like, what's next for you? What do you want to be next for you?
Yeah, so I think I want to work in industry, and really what I'm passionate about is human spaceflight. So seeing NASA's plans for Artemis and returning astronauts to the moon, and then also future plans for going on to Mars. Those are really projects that excite me, and I think they're inspirational for humanity, and they're they're technical challenges that need to be overcome. But it's a good mix of technical and political and inspiring and all that. So really excited to get into industry, and I'm excited to see a lot of commercial activity in the area of human spaceflight now. So there's a lot of private companies that are developing vehicles and spacecraft that can launch astronauts or even tourists into orbit, and so excited to get out there and be part of all that development. So I haven't applied to jobs yet. That's sort of one of my things for this fall is to try to line something up. But yeah, looking forward to get out there and once I graduate, get going there in industry.
So obviously research day in, day out. This is what you do. So was it hard or was it a big deal to gather together the work that you've already done to get something to submit to this challenge? Or did you have to kind of restructure, reconfigure some work you've already done? What was that process for you?
Yeah, so this summer, one of the main things I was working on was my thesis proposal defense for my thesis research on in-space manufacturing. And obviously, as you mentioned, the case studies I wrote weren't on in-space manufacturing. So I sort of use the case study as kind of a way to work on something outside my own thesis research and have something that was, fun and exciting to work on in addition to that work that I do day in and day out. And really the case studies that I submitted, a lot of that was basically taking prior work that I've done and basically modifying it into the form of the case study. So as you mentioned, I'm at MIT now for my PhD, and I got my master's at MIT, but I did my undergrad at the University of Florida. And so while I was at University of Florida, I worked on a project called DebrisSat, which was a project funded by NASA and the U.S. Air Force, and it was basically looking at updating satellite breakup models. So the idea is that if two satellites collide in orbit, it forms a debris cloud, and some of those fragments of debris are smaller than what we can actually measure from the ground with telescopes or with radar. And so we actually designed and built a satellite that was representative of an actual satellite, and we took it to Arnold Engineering Development Center in Tennessee. And they actually it's called Range G. They have a 2-stage light gas gun that can basically fire a Coke can sized projectile it was 6.4 kilometers per second, I think. So, over 16,000 miles an hour, and destroyed the spacecraft that we built so that we could then categorize the shape and size of all the fragments it produced. So that's where I got my exposure to orbital debris, and the importance of being able to model orbital debris and the very real risk that it poses to spacecraft that we rely on every day for weather, for telecommunications, for GPS in your phone. So basically, I had the case study that I wrote was basically based on kind of some of the concepts that I'd been exposed to on that project, and then I was able to try to work it into a case study format that prompts discussion for student for the individuals at the Air University. So yeah, it was a fun opportunity to try to take some of the knowledge that I've been able to gain through some of these projects and share that with Air University.
Oh, wow, that's super cool. So I also noted that you've had some interaction with Air Force in the past. Mm-hmm. So did that assist you? Did that help you with this challenge, then being that it was for Air University?
So I'd never worked with Air University in particular. So that project was with Space and Missile Center. And so, I mean, I guess it helped in the sense that I've worked on projects that are related to topics that the Air Force is interested in. Mm-hmm. But other than that, basically, it was just the idea that, it's a very generally applicable topic that's of interest for anyone operating a spacecraft, whether it's military or civilian. And actually, one of the interesting things is that it's the Combined Space Operations Center, so CSPOC and they're based in Vandenberg Air Force Base. They're actually the ones that do a lot of the tracking of debris and sharing information with commercial spacecraft operators about if their spacecraft are on a collision course or a potential conjunction is what it would be called. And so basically, I'm aware of the fact that the Air Force is doing that tracking and is basically involved in trying to figure out how do you model how do you propagate the orbit of the debris, and how do you deploy the right sensors to get you the information you need. And those were some of the things that I explored with the case study.
Awesome. And this is the marketer Emmy needs to know. How did you hear about the challenge?
Yep. So I actually heard about it. So back last November, I went to the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop with my NASA Space Technology Research Fellow mentor, Dr. Tracy Prater. And so I went to that Interstellar conference and actually just got on the email chain for that. And they actually sent out an email message to everybody that had been to the conference, letting everyone know that there was a challenge from Mgm Works. And it caught my attention that it was basically that I would be able to write up a case study, basically take some of the work that I've done and be able to share that. And, I was really excited about the opportunity to produce something that could be used by our university and by our service members to, just help any way that I could as a civilian to, contribute to their education. So, yeah, and I think that Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop, it basically started in the Tennessee Valley. So I don't know if they have connections to Mgm Works with you all being in Alabama as well, or kind of how they heard about it. But that was how I got the information. And then I shared it with a couple of my friends from school. I was like, hey guys, this looks like a pretty cool competition. So I know at least one of my other friends, he ended up submitting a case study as well. So tried to spread the word for you all as well.
Hey, we appreciate it, and that's really how it works. We had two major people. It was AJ Snow with AFWorks, and then a local space professional here. Her name is Nami, who they really pushed it for us and spread the word. And I believe her connect was related with that Tennessee Valley Connect.
Oh,
And I remember him sending me an email saying, "Hey, can I send this to our newsletter?" I was like, "Sure, send it to whoever you want, your cousins, your uncles, your nieces, your nephews, go ahead." So he put it out, and that's super cool that our first place winner, I can now track that path of how you got to us. That's great. So with that, being that you did win first place, I mean, how does that feel? What does that mean? Did you tell people? What did they say? Is it a big deal? Let us know about that.
yeah, I mean, I was super excited, obviously, when I got the news that I was awarded first place. Obviously, yeah, excited to tell my family, celebrate with them and my friends and all that. And no, it's a real honor to have been awarded that. And I think it's the most important part too. I think is that it wasn't just a competition for the sake of a competition. So I really took that as the being awarded first place as indication that this is a case study that could actually be helpful to the Air University and is something that really is applicable to the Air Force. So I was really excited to be able to sort of get that validation that work that I put in actually is something that can be beneficial. And it makes it worthwhile to put it in the work to put the case study together. And it feels good to share some of the experiences that I've gained from some past projects and be able to write that down and put it into something that they can use for education purposes.
And you did touch on this earlier a little bit. So I think I told you all this. I may not have indicated it well, but so all the case studies that were submitted and qualified are going to go into a library where Air University instructors are going to pick these pieces, build curriculum off of them, space. So like now the airmen and servicemen are going to be reading your case study. They'll be talking about the discussion questions that you submitted. They'll be reading all of the extra work that you suggested they read. So, I mean, what do you hope? I mean, you touched on this a little bit, but what do you hope that this provides for the servicemen? I mean, I guess, what does it feel like to know that your work is going to be part of military education? Like, that's a huge deal,
Yeah. Well, I guess first of all, I hope they're not upset that I put too much extra reading in there for them to have as assigned reading. But yeah, no, it's I mean, it's really exciting to know that this is something that will actually be used, and that was something that I think you guys communicated well, in the frequently asked question video and in the information for the competition that the idea of this competition was to actually produce work that could actually be valuable and go into that case study book. And so yeah, I mean, it's really exciting to know that all that work will go in there. And I have a couple buddies from school that are in the Air Force, so. We'll see if someday they end up going to Air University and then potentially seeing my name on one of the case studies. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, it's a really cool opportunity knowing that it's actually getting used for that purpose.
Okay, and now I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about your case study. Just a little summary of highs, lows, ups, down, a little summary about your case study.
Yeah, so the case study is looking at orbital debris collision risk and potential mitigation strategies. So basically, the case study focused on the fact that back in 2009, there was actually two spacecraft actually collided in orbit, and so there wasn't a conjunction assessment issued by CSPOC to say that there's a potential for these two spacecraft to collide. And, it's something where you realize that space is big and spacecraft are small. So, what are the odds that they actually collide? And CSPOC actually provides you with the probability of them colliding. But basically, over time, there's the very real possibility that two spacecraft do collide, and that actually happened in 2009. So I basically framed the case study to say that the student is operating a military reconnaissance spacecraft in orbit on the day that collision occurred between those other two spacecraft. And then I basically positioned the student to where you're trying to figure out, how do I decide what my response is, and how do I weigh the trade-off between, do I maneuver my spacecraft to reduce the risk of colliding with some of the debris that was formed in that collision? and potentially you're sacrificing the opportunity to take images of a high priority target, or you're also consuming propellant on your spacecraft in order to reduce your risk, but then your spacecraft would end up running out of propellant sooner, and so the life of the spacecraft would be lessened. So there's a lot of those trade-offs that you're trying to decide kind of what can you do in the moment. And then since I had the students basically, in the moment when that collision occurred, over time, it's basically, what would you do in response? And then it says, basically a month later, they release new information. There's better tracking data about where the debris are, what the size is, what their orbits are like. And so you have a better knowledge of the risk. And so how do you change your decisions based on that new information? And then I actually tied it into that DebrisSat project that I mentioned, which basically was looking at how our ability to predict how spacecraft will break up can actually be flawed as newer spacecraft use new materials and new technology. So then how do you handle that the fact that when you're an operator in the moment, you don't have complete information about what is actually happening in the environment. And so how do you make those decisions? And then it really lets you explore kind of the broader question of how do you decide how much money should we spend to improve our ability to track this debris, or how much money should we spend to be able to shield our spacecraft or launch them with more propellant to be able to maneuver. And so there are basically decisions that you can make well in advance that change your ability, that improve your ability to respond in the event of an orbital collision. And then there's also actions that you can take, in the moment. So really trying to tie together those two timeframes, and hopefully by putting you in sort of a simulated stressful situation of operating in response to a rare occurrence like that, like a collision, you can have a better understanding of how you want to act, now before you're actually in the moment and trying to figure out what you can do. So that's sort of the general idea for that case study.
And that's why you won first place.
Thank you.
So, okay. So how was it working with Mgm Works? How was it working, chatting with us and going back and forth and things like that?
Yeah, so this is my first time working with Mgm Works, and really I found the information for basically the requirements for the competition, what y'all were looking for was very clear, and you guys had a video posted. By the time I came across the competition, I think you might have done a live frequently asked questions, or you had maybe solicited the questions and then made that video. Having that video was very helpful to be able to look through that and figure out kind of how we want to tackle the challenge, and just knowing what it is that you're looking for, because it's you want to have something that's relevant to the Air Force and to those operators. So really provided a good opportunity to try to narrow those down. Yeah, and just emailing with you all back and forth, with any questions we had, or you all keeping us informed, was obviously great. I think after I submitted my first case study, I got a response from you all that you're happy to see that I had submitted. So it's cool to know that it's not kind of just getting thrown into a black box. It's when you end up submitting, you're actually getting recognized. And actually, I got a letter also from Lieutenant General Hecker, who I guess is the commander and president of Air University. So I actually got a letter in the mail from him, saying that they were really excited about all the case studies and the quality of the work and all that. So it was, all in all, it was a really well done competition, with a lot of response and good communication.
Well, that was very important because for myself and our then business manager, this was our first project that we ran together as a challenge. So we were like making sure y'all knew all the information, that everybody got a hug through emails, and we were especially excited that General Hecker sent letters to you all to say, hey, we really appreciate this work that you did. And that was high quality work that we got from everybody as well. Yeah. So Matthew, before we wrap everything up, is there anything else you just want to share or say about the challenge? Any information about yourself or about the challenge, or that the work you did, or to the airmen that you want to share?
Yeah, so this is a great competition all together, and I'm really excited to keep tabs on Mgm Works and any future competitions you all have. I think you touched on it at the beginning of this interview that basically this competition, you guys were able to put it together in, I think you said 40 days, and be able to go from soliciting submissions to actually getting submissions, and then think you all only took like a week or two to actually, review the material and let everyone know, how they did and all that. So I think it really shows the value of these types of competitions, that you can get quality work and you can get a quick response. And so I'm, really excited for y'all to keep doing challenges like this. And for the airmen, thank you all for your service and for what you do. As a civilian, when I came across this challenge and I saw that I was able to contribute in a small way to take some of my work from academia and help to infuse that into Air University, I was really excited about that opportunity. It's been a fun challenge, and really happy that I came across that email from the Interstellar Workshop and clicked on the link and saw the information about this, so that I was able to participate in it. So just all in all, it was a great challenge.
Well, thank you, Matthew. I'm glad you came across that email too. It's good for all of us. It's great for all of us. But thank you so much for your time. And now this is wrapping up our Works on the Rep series. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And we'll stay connected with you, Matthew.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we can really say bye. So Matthew, it was a pleasure to meet you. And I appreciate you taking this time to do this. And again, congratulations. And honestly, like, the group they were floored with your work. Like, they loved it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm super happy to hear that. So yeah, thanks for putting this together. And you guys did great work putting the competition together and all that. So it was a fun time. So yeah, I signed up for like email, subscribe to y'all's email list and all that. So I'll try to keep tabs on if y'all do any more work, put out any more challenges and all that. And then I think you had mentioned at some point that Air University, they might be interested in kind of follow-on stuff maybe, or whatever. So obviously I'm happy to participate in any of that. Or I don't know if for these case studies, if they ever want someone kind of just to speak about the case study or something, or do a video chat type thing for that, I'd be happy to participate in any of that moving forward. So just figured I'd let you know that I'm happy to help out more. And it's I'm serious about that. It's being able to contribute to that, and I have a lot of friends that are in the military and the Air Force and Navy and all that, Marines. So it's fun to since I'm not, I'm excited to be able to help out and contribute to that a bit. So anything I can do, always happy for that.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because actually a few people in the group that doing the evaluations, because we had Air University instructors and other Air Force and Space Force people who were part of the evaluation process. And the conversation was kind of having a guest lecture series throughout the year. So perhaps pulling on our top winners and other space professionals to come and do a virtual conversation or something like that. So also too, another one of the research people at Air University, he was like, I wonder if they'd be interested in being a part of our, like, I don't know, that that Canva is it Canva? Canvas is the tool that they use for Air University conversation among the students. And like, if somebody could come in and be a part of those conversations when we discuss their case study or as a special guest. So they've started courses now. So their brains are focused on, okay, how are we doing everything virtual now? Everything's flipped over. But the conversation will likely come up in the next few weeks of, okay, we have this, how can we further connect with those top winners? And so now that you've said that, Matthew, I'm going to write it down. And I'll probably send a note to them today to say, hey, I just had this interview and touch with Matthew again. And he brought it up. So let's see if we can flesh something out for the next couple of months that might be beneficial for you and for them and for the Air University students.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Well, cool beans, Matthew. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ray.